days of strength, will, and desire, building a future for me and you. Let's get inspired and shine the spotlight on the CUSW. Hello, and welcome to the CUSW Spotlight Podcast, brought to you by the Canadian Union of Skilled Workers, established in 1999. CUSW has been empowering its members and shaping the future of skilled trades for over 25 years. In this podcast, we shine a spotlight on the people, stories, and values that make CUSW a strong and dynamic community. It's an exciting time to be part of this union, and we're here to celebrate the journey, achievements, and dedication of skilled workers. So turn up the volume and let's get started. Here's your host for the CUSW Spotlight Podcast, Mr. Dan Plexman.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CUSW Spotlight Podcast. I'm excited to have my good friend and our fellow colleague, Kris Stevens, on the show. Hello, Kris. How are you today?
Hey there, Dan. Great. Beautiful day out and really happy to be here with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for participating. We really appreciate you being here. For the audience at home, for our fellow CUSW members, can you tell us a little bit about Kris Stevens?
Sure, no problem. I came to CUSW in a slightly different way than I think a lot of our other members have. I was first working with the Ontario Sustainable Energy Association, and John Wabb and Joe Mulhall, one of the founding board members of CUSW, they both were involved with the association and my work around sustainable energy and community ownership and the Green Energy Act. And that's how I first, as an external stakeholder, got to know CUSW. And then when I decided to leave, I started my own business, but also had a discussion with them about joining CUSW to work as a sustainability and innovation advisor. And that's probably about 10 and a half years ago, 11 years ago now. And then at the 8-year mark, I ended up joining as a member as well. And I've been starting other not-for-profits, sitting on boards representing CUSW or other groups, and all of the different work that I do around really building community and bringing people together to create equity, create value has intersected. So some of the things we'll talk about today around housing or energy or my participation as a member within the various committees and my support of the board all sort of intersect in various different ways so that I get to not just do good work, but also live my values every day. And that's why I'm really happy to be part of CUSW in so many different ways and to have my family involved too.
I think a lot of your background centers around the community you live in. And now that you're involved in the CUSW, it seems to me you're kind of intertwining your values and beliefs of your own life and what you want to contribute to the community that you belong to and you live in, and incorporate all of that with our CUSW community.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great way to say it. I really appreciate the participatory democracy that we are. This idea that it's not a third party or some other organization servicing us as members, but that we are the ones that invest our time and shape it and bring our families in and get them involved. So over the last 11 years, just seen incredible leaps and bounds. We're wearing our 25-year anniversary shirts. So when I think back to 25 years ago and the members meeting on the side of the road, organizing, discussing this idea of a 100% Canadian union that's all trades and beyond trades, knowledge workers, we've done it. We're creating a really different way of doing things. It's really exciting. So yeah, living our values. I always did it anyways. And now I get to be part of this broader community and to do really good work together. We get to magnify our impact by participating.
Right. So it's like we got city, country, community. And I notice one thing you said, you're one of the non-working members of CUSW. You're not actually on the tools, but you're still a member. There's not a lot of unions that actually involve non-working members as an official member of the union. Just like my wife, she's a non-working member, but she's a very, very active member behind the scenes of the form and functions and the building of our CUSW community. Just like she's behind the scenes with this podcasts we're making right now. It's a really diverse group that we have, and it's amazing how the CUSW recognizes the need to involve our families in the work lives that we all participate in, because without our families, we have no community.
Yeah, well, I will say I'm still a working member, just work in different ways. And I think that diversity within our membership, we've got a lot of different trades. Our roots were in the power sector, but now we've got other trades and then non-trades people that are members. This idea that our families are active. My son has been, I don't know, we just finished doing the participation roundtables earlier this year, and he came out. He knows the other members. When we do health and safety conference, he comes out, and then we have the fun activities after that where people get to know each other. And so often when I show up, the question isn't, "Hey, how are you doing?" It's, "Hey, where's your son?
How's Elias doing today?" Yeah,
that's right.
A great kid. He's a fine young man.
Yeah, he is becoming a young man. It's pretty amazing. And so the level of involvement that we have of people in the broader community and how they then add and bring expertise and knowledge and skills and perspective. Because, we can't be masters of everything, but a good team is made up of people with different perspectives, different skills, and together then we can do a lot more. We can have a broader reach, we can magnify our impact. And that's also why we work with so many other great organizations and support or have started a number of initiatives as well.
Yeah, for sure. You talked about recognizing things within ourselves that we can offer to the community, and we all can't do everything, just like you said, but we all have our niche skills that we all carry. And it's really enlightening to see that with the way the structure of our union works. We talk about this quite often with our union, how we're bottom up. We have an upside down pyramid, and it's not one person recognizing, oh, this guy has this skill, this guy has that skill. It's a whole conglomeration of us all recognizing everything within ourselves and recognizing things within all of our team members, because that's what we are. We're a team that all works together. We don't have one leader. We're all leaders. We're all followers at the same time.
Yeah. One of the things that I think about a lot is, how do we create opportunity and security for each other? How do we work together to create this? And over the last few years, especially, we've seen a real transformation where we moved a lot of the operations that were at the board level from that old traditional top-down model down to the committee level, where the members are making decisions and consultants or staff or reps are helping them out in implementing the work that they're doing. But really, the board is becoming the governors, has flattened out. There's not all the different titles. There's a chairperson and a co-chair. But really, the board is flat. They make decisions by consensus, and the members are actively engaged in shaping where we're going. And that creates sometimes a little bit of challenges because we're not used to working those sorts of organizations, but it's working. And the resilience that's coming from that connectivity, from that shared wisdom, the wisdom of crowds, is really powerful. And it's making us stronger and stronger. And you see it when we come together at our social events, at our work events. They're all about building culture. The most powerful technology that we can have is our culture, not just the tools or the technology that we're using.
Yeah, definitely. It is inspiring to see that we can all collectively decide what's happening with our union and be part of it. It really is. I love it about this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Well, I think a lot of people, even our own CUSW members, obviously the majority of our work and the majority of our membership is based in Ontario, but we have branched out across the country, especially with our work with the CCU, the Confederation of Canadian Unions, and all the other initiatives that we have with other communities across Canada. It seems that you travel quite a bit. Can you tell us maybe a little bit more of your work across the country and what you're doing?
Yeah, the idea is really about magnifying our reach. And I travel a bit, but a lot of it's done virtually and by pulling together the right folks. So, we've got the Aboriginal Skilled Workers Association that's based out of Calgary at the moment, that's working on helping create opportunities for workers in Indigenous communities across the country. We worked with ISED, which was also previously known as ABO, the Aboriginal Apprenticeship Board, to help create opportunities again in the Indigenous file. Renewable energy, energy efficiency. We've seen members across the province expand into new spaces, new sectors because of some of the collaborative efforts that we're doing. Participation roundtables, going out, talking to the grassroots membership, talking to them about what's your priority, quality of life. How can we help support you in these challenging times? But also, how can we get you involved in helping improve and strengthen Canada as a whole, your province, your employer, your family, and dealing with some of the challenges. And then some of the really cool projects that we're working on right now out west. There's a group called Roots to Roofs that we founded about 4 years ago that came out of some training that we were doing. And that's now leading to some of my other not-for-profit work intersecting into housing. So we've got a housing project on the west coast of Vancouver Island that we're working on, and a really, really cool project in 𝗏𝗏 First Nation just north of Victoria, which has 18 apprentices, 2 second years who finished earlier this year, and another 16 first-year apprentices that are now becoming second year. They are building 38 homes that were destroyed or ruined by an atmospheric flood, and they're actually building them to passive house standard, to be flood resistant, and basically replacing these old, moldy, nasty buildings with the type of home that all of us would like to live in. Some of them are designed for multi-generational living so that there's a granny flat attached, so you got grandma and grandpa living there too. They're being built on budget, and every single one of those apprentices is at work all of the time. The builder that we're working with is actually paying them so that they're getting a living wage. They don't have to go in EI while they're doing their training. And we've brought an instructor into community so that they're actually living there with them the whole 4 years while they complete each of their stages of the project, do the training in the morning or earlier in the week, and then go and do construction afterwards and actually build the project. So they're involved in all stages from beginning to end. And these are the sorts of really, I think, innovative, cool ideas that we're bringing into the trades, or maybe they're old ideas that we're just bringing back into life. That, we go to the places where we're doing the work, learn the job, rather than having to go away to school or something to learn those skills.
Like the way it used to be, it kind of seems that way because typically you worked where you lived. Mm-hmm. From my experience in construction, where I lived, I never worked in my own home city, probably 20 years of being in construction. That's the first time I had a chance to actually work in my own city. And to hear this going on where you got apprentices or people starting off as an apprentice and they can do their full apprenticeship in their own community, in their own town, their own city, without having to travel, take up all those extra expenses. That is a fantastic project.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. I think amongst our members, we're doing a lot of really cool initiatives and projects. Another one is up in Owen Sound, Glassworks Co-op, 47 acres of land that the co-op purchased several years ago. They were going to have to sell it because the vendor take-back loan was coming due. And CUSW and a number of us that are members, as well as other people from the community, contributed and helped raise the money to secure the land. And now we're working towards building 300 to 500 homes up there that will be financially accessible. That means people with incomes between 35 and 85,000, at least 60% of those units, will be able to be purchased by people with those incomes. So it's a game changer. In a place with 1% vacancy, it's unheard of right now. And that's one of the first projects that we're helping support. But we've been working with the affordable homeownership sector to advocate in Toronto and around the rest of Ontario on similar projects too. So it's really about finding smart, engaged people who are trying to do great things and aligning our values and then building together. And it's really exciting to be part of not just a place where you go to get a job, but a community that's really caring and interested in creating those security and opportunity pieces or aspects in your life, and that you get to help shape those. It's amazing.
Yeah, all those numbers, they seem unheard of. They seem astronomical in a low sense, where especially that area. Like I live in the Northern Ontario, so housing and expenses are different from what it is in the South. But from what I hear from my friends living in that area, you need a double income of $100,000 each to maintain a house and to live like that. So to be able to afford a house on $35,000 to $80,000 on one income, that's how, like, who came up with this? Like, how did it happen? It's amazing.
Well, it's about being curious. So my mentor on the housing file that CUSW is working with on that initiative. And it's not just us, it's also a number of other organizations and people. But he's been working on affordable housing for 40 plus years. And instead of just talking about affordability, which usually ends up leading us to rentals, he asked the question, well, what do we mean by affordable? And affordable means, what does it cost to enter? You know, what's the down payment, or what's the deposit, or do I need to put money forward at the front end? And then what do I need to carry that cost over time? So whether it's a mortgage or a monthly rent and costs for all of your other expenses related to the home, those two things, if you tackle them one at a time, then can make this more accessible. So as a not-for-profit model, we're using the money that a traditional developer would make as their profit and using that to help the homeowner first to pay their deposit or their down payment. And when they sell their home in the future, that share of the down payment in the whole home gets repaid and goes back into a co-op that reinvests that money back into the community. So basically every house that gets built, we can build another 3 homes, which is crazy. It's amazing.
Wow.
Because we're creating community wealth instead of private or corporate wealth. And then the other piece of the equation, which is, well, what's your mortgage? Well, let's say it's $800,000 if you're living in, Toronto or something crazy. Well, if you only have to carry $400,000 and the other 4 is being carried by a different lender who gets that money back at the end, when again you sell your home in the future, then you're carrying a $400,000 mortgage. It's less burden for you to carry, which means that your monthly costs are also lower. So we tackled affordability. And I think that's the interesting thing with all of what we're doing, whether it's apprentices and where do we train them, how do we create good work for ourselves, our training trust, our power sector benefit trust that looks after our health benefits, our retirement savings trust. All of these things came from really smart and engaged members coming forward with ideas and then figuring out what tools do we need to create this, again, security and opportunity. It's amazing because it is the wisdom of us collectively coming forward to figure out how to solve problems facing us. And again, we engage our members through their workplace, through their units, through the National Executive Board, through doing surveys, through doing the participation roundtables. And I think we really listen. We listen to ourselves and come up with good ideas to help solve complex problems and make our lives better.
That is fantastic to have the foresight to actually be able to create a situation like this. It's like a win-win situation for everyone. And getting back to how our union operates and how the process of decision-making is made, I do see sometimes it might be a little bit slower and a little more intricate than the next guy on the block. But the way we work it, the way I see it, it might take a little bit longer, but we clear away a lot of murky water by our process. So I think we're really onto something here on how the whole process works, and we're seeing the results with these situations like you're talking about. It's amazing.
Well, you look at the Constitution, and since I've been around, it's evolved because when we have our convention, we bring forward motions. Now, the values have been refined and clarified. That's where we start. Like, who are we and why do we do what we do? And what sort of world do we want to live in? And is this just about us or me? Or is this about a bigger us or the biggest us, the broader community? And I think it's about the bigger us. And it's not perfect. It's got lots of bumps. Some things don't work perfectly or efficiently. Everyone wants to be efficient, but it's like effectiveness is sometimes more important, I think. And being a multicultural, a diverse group of people with different perspectives, where families, not just the workers, but the whole broader community, the external stakeholders, who lots of them are also part of CUSW. It's amazing because we are taking that core strength and expanding it, and it's becoming more resilient, becoming more healthy. And even though we're dealing with challenging times around, inflation and the economy or world events that are disrupting things, it's not okay, I would say, but at least we know we can be more okay together and figure things out and support each other if things get rough and tough.
Yeah, it only makes sense. I think of a house that I owned a few years ago. It wasn't in the best neighborhood, but a bunch of us got together and we cleaned up some of the parks and one of the old abandoned churches that was in the neighborhood. Well, by doing that, we actually increased the value of the homes in our neighborhood. So it only makes sense for what you're talking about, where we're the CUSW community, but we're really reaching out beyond our community to build other communities around us. If you look at it in a selfish way where you put out to get back, and that's what's happening, but we don't have that attitude. We're actually there to create goodness all around. And
yeah,
I'm just so proud to be part of it.
I'm with you. And I think that's our challenge sometimes, is that we don't tell our story as well as we could, because we're not there to brag or to try to pull people in.
Toot toot.
Yeah, we're doing the right thing for the right reasons. I think we're getting better at telling our stories, and this initiative that you and Nasia are initiating is amazing, because it creates a way for us to not just share the story, but to document some of the great things, to help our members hear more about what we're up to, and to get people engaged. And I'm excited to see where you go. You know, like, there's so many interesting people that are attached to our community that have things to share and that we can learn from.
Exactly. When we first started talking about this podcast, we started thinking, okay, who are we going to bring on the show? And then you realize we have like 4,000 to 8,000 people directly connected with CUSW. And we have like professional athletes, we have race car drivers, we have community activists like yourself. We have so many people to draw on and to make us who we are. Like I said, toot toot. We need to toot our own horn. We really do. That's the whole purpose of this show, is to bring awareness to everybody. And like myself, I've been with the CUSW for like 20 years. Honestly, the first couple of years when I joined the union, it was just a name on a letterhead. I really didn't have a lot to do with it. CUSW is another union that I joined to be part of the construction industry that I always worked in. And it's been great. But I never really took the time to understand what's going on. Then just over 3 years into my work experience with CUSW, I was seriously injured, and my entire life changed from bottom up completely. 17 years later, after being injured, working within the CUSW bubble, I'm still here. These hands, they'll never be on tools again. But I'm behind this computer, I'm typing, I'm working, I'm contributing to this whole community. And I really appreciate the fact that the CUSW and our membership and just what we've been creating here, it's allowing me to develop myself as a person, professionally and personally. Being injured isn't just about being injured physically, it's about the emotional and the psychological aspects of things. And the CUSW has been there with me all along. So people need to know this. And that's the whole purpose of this show.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. And those obstacles you've overcome created different challenges, opportunities. We all have those internal or external bullies or situations that shape us, and how we engage them provides us a positive path forward, or maybe not such a positive pathway. That's also something that I see that we're really working on, is how do we support our members' mental health, spiritual health, physical health, and more conversations around how do we do it proactively, and how do we support families. Like, our members in many instances aren't working locally. You mentioned it earlier, they've got to go away, they're gone for extended periods, and those extended periods can be really lonely, isolating, stressful, and create really unhealthy environments to be in. And we're having some really interesting conversations about how do we make that better? How do we make it easier, or maybe not easier, but more supported, so that even if you're having a hard time, you know how to get the help you need, or perhaps to get the help before you really need it, so that we can address the issues. And I know myself, I went through a separation, and having that support for myself, for my son, even when my co-parent and I were still trying to work things out, was important. It was important to know that there were resources to draw on to help me and help them figure things out as we figured out where we're going to go in the future and how life was going to be.
Yeah, for sure. Like any issue, any problem we have in life, it's very similar to any medical injury or medical issue that we might have. You can't treat it unless you recognize it and then diagnose it. And that's what I love about how we run things here. We just don't jump into the fire and fix things right away. We step back, we have our process, we recognize things, we diagnose things, we come up with a plan, and then we put it to action.
I think the curiosity and the listening is really been cultivated, right? That you got to ask questions, and sometimes people don't want to get asked, right?
Yeah.
But learning how to ask the hard questions, what to look for, all that sort of thing, and just recognizing we all have multiple lives. You've done different things and found your way here. I was a recruiter working in South Korea for about 6 years, and I ran an association. I've done different not-for-profits, even during my time with CUSW, where at one point my contract was frozen, but I still continued to participate as a member, and I still looked after a bunch of the initiatives and projects that have then grown into things. And because I had that little breather, even though I was frustrated at the time, it allowed me the opportunity to figure out this housing stuff that now I've brought back to CUSW. So it's amazing, right? Sometimes the things that you think are, oh, this is horrible or it's really bad, it might provide that opportunity for growth or get you out of your comfort zone and think about what you really want, what you really need, and how important time is, for instance, instead of money,
Yeah.
especially people that you love and that you appreciate, right?
Yeah, exactly. The time factor is the biggest thing, I think. And a lot of people who aren't on the tools, they don't realize the amount of time that our workers spend with each other and away from their families.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, you could be driving to work for an hour or two every morning and then back again at nighttime. If you work in another area working for CUSW, you might have to drive 10 hours one way before you start your work week and then drive 10 hours back after your work week. It's just the nature of the beast when it comes to the industries that we're in. And sometimes the unknowingness of where you're going to be next week or what job you're going to do, it is a little bit fearful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, in these participation roundtables earlier in the year, there was a lot of talk about the casual nature of our members that are in the trades, their work. So a lot of folks may not understand this, that a tradesperson doesn't necessarily have a full-time job per se. Like even if they worked at Hydro One full-time for the last 20 years, they're still technically casual labor. They could be laid off at any time, which gives them certain rights and privileges, but it also means that when they want to go get a mortgage or get access to other supports, it may not be as easy because they're in many ways like an entrepreneur. And that's where some of the things that I do align, is that I run my own business and have to make sure that I've got the right support mechanisms. And sometimes I'm riding the edge, just like a lot of our members are, that, if things went wrong, if the next paycheck's not coming, it may be tough. And that's where that idea that a union can provide access to health benefits, can provide access to new work, can provide opportunities for training, education, mentorship are really, really important. And at the same time, understanding that you've got to be preparing to be ready for if things don't go exactly as you hoped they were going to go. And that having brothers, sisters, extended family around you that can help you out if you're having a hard time or need that little step across the gap, that they're going to be there.
It's true. Well, you said there about how a lot of us, we could be working for 20 years for the same contractor and still be technically casual or temporary workers. I remember my first construction job. I think my dad told me, yeah, you take a job so you can work yourself out of it. And that's how construction is. And you're only as good as your last job. It's like, okay, I got this job. Where am I going to go next? It's just part of the job. Yeah.
I think that workers that are in other types of work, they're also not secure. There's always a tariff could change the game for that business that you're working for and transform your life forever. There's a health issue, or a family member gets ill and you've got to go look after them instead of going to work, or you get injured or have a health issue. And I think that's also important. That health piece that you mentioned earlier is, health is wealth. And if the foundation is faulty, then the rest of the building or the superstructure can fall apart.
Yeah, great analogy. Great analogy. I'm thinking about what we've been talking about this whole time. I can tell that you're very proud of what you do and your involvement with CUSW. I would have to assume that your work with affordable housing is probably a feather in your cap for you. Are there any other things that you're mostly proud of with your work with CUSW that you want to touch on?
Oh, man. So many things. Some of the governance work where we shifted things from the board level down to the members really controlling and making decisions. A lot of that work where I was working as a member, I feel really proud to be involved in helping break into new sectors like renewables, and whether it's wind or solar, supporting different boards. Like I sit on the boards representing CUSW and trying to bring our values to the table. That's also really important and powerful. Participation roundtables, flipping things and going to the grassroots and talking to family members, not just to the members, has really been a game changer. So I don't know. When I was a recruiter in Korea, I used to tell my clients and my candidates that you should choose the people. Choose the people, not the job, not the money, not the location. If you find the right people, you can do really wonderful things, and the rest of it will follow. And I feel personally that I found that here. I found that with some of the founding members of CUSW who asked me to work with the union. And then now, almost 11 years later, I know you and so many other people, and I just feel so thankful to be able to come to work every day and do things that improve all of our members' lives, but also the broader society. And that some of my other side initiatives and projects that I'm involved in have now also been pulled into the broader community of CUSW, and that we all get to share in those collective efforts and work with those other great people that I've had the chance to find along the way. I don't want to retire ever. I turned 50 last year, and I just think like, wow, if I can do what I've figured out over the last 50 years and make it even better over the next 50, woohoo, why would I ever want to stop? That's the long answer. The short answer is the thing that I really appreciate most and that I'm most proud of is that I get to work with good people with good values, and that we get to do good work every day.
What you said about not wanting to retire, I concur 100%. I turned 52. We're very close in age. And I was talking to a friend of mine about retiring and everything else. And he's actually 74 years old and he's still working. And I was like, I want to be like you. I don't want to ever stop working. He goes, oh, me too. He goes, I still got another 20 years left. I'm like, exactly. That's exactly where I want to be. I am so happy and excited to know that I still have more to offer. And I don't want to quit. I don't want to stop working. This is enjoyable for me. I feel like I'm actually making a difference. And to be able to have this opportunity, it just doesn't happen in a lot of other sectors. That's for sure.
And what I see is some of our retirees, some of our members that have retired, they're getting more involved in mentoring and training. So our elders, I think, are doing great work. And I'm excited, or I'm hopeful that a lot more of them will get involved in helping mentor, helping support. They may not be working per se anymore out at their original jobs, but we've got all of these really great people with knowledge and wisdom that can bring that to our other members. But also it gives them a chance to learn, because a lot of the younger members have lessons and wisdom to share too, I think, with the older members. I think what's also this idea that, let's say we're building that housing project out on the West Coast, or we've got some sort of initiative where we're rewiring a building or building some other training facility. It could be anything, but those folks, it's not just about them going back to work in the workplace, but they could actually be the trainers. Their opportunity is to help shape that next generation. And some of them may be rough around the edges around how they talk to people. But again, that's the opportunity, right? We've seen within CUSW amazing initiatives around addressing human rights and gender equality in the workplace. Still lots of work to do around Indigenous knowledge and safety training to help understand what it means to be addressing truth and reconciliation and the wrongs that need to be righted and the world that we want to create together. And I think that's also the exciting part. We are seeing a lot of our applicant members now getting involved directly in the union, even before they go to work. So once they've applied and been accepted, they don't need to go and actually do the job first. They can actually get involved. And there's some really great people that I met over the last year specifically that I have in my mind. And I'm like, wow, you went from showing up at one event bravely, coming to a place where you didn't know anybody. And then within 2 months, they're actively involved in a committee, contributing ideas, bringing skills. Like one of them had organized events and was a sommelier and had gone back to school to become an electrician. And you're like, wow, cool. And they're heavily involved now in our social committee. Like, it's just amazing. We all have that knowledge that if we stop and think about how can I be part of something bigger? How can I give? I'm going to get a lot. I'm going to get so much more just by being part and by participating.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about some of our younger members stepping up. Well, when I go to our annual health, safety, and wellness conference every year, and the last few years we've been inviting and making sure that our family members and the kids are part of this conference. Well, every year you see the growth in these children, and they're still coming back with their parents. Well, we have like a little inside joke with a lot of our members where this is our pre-apprenticeship program. And
That's right.
That's what grassroots is all about. Like, I remember as a child, I used to drive around in a transport truck with my dad going to work with him. And he used to work on the pipeline and driving a picker truck.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be his swamper, 10 years old, sitting in the passenger seat, just bouncing around the road, watching this thing go on in the summer times because my mom was working as a nurse, and where else was I going to go?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. There's too many rules, job sites, that kind of thing. And I get it. And they have to be that way. Obviously, you don't want kids on the job site working away, but some of our grassroots developments and our strategies as growing up, they're not available anymore because of these rules. So for us to bring our children to the committee side, to the back end of the union, to our conferences, that is getting them involved in what we do as our work lives. And just like you said earlier, a lot of our children don't even know what their parents do. And then on the other side of it, like 50% of the workforce is doing what their parents did. So
Right.
We have to foster the grassroots of everything. And
we're not just teaching them a skill, but we're teaching them a culture, a way of being with others, how to be with different types of folks and live in a healthy civil society, right? Like we build the future for ourselves, and decisions are made 20, 30 years ago. We're dealing with some of those repercussions now. And, what do we want things to look like in 20 to 30 years from now, or, 7 generations, if you're taking a more indigenous perspective? Like, the work we do now will bear the fruit trees that bear the fruit for the next generation. And at the same time, there's probably work that we could take our kids to, right? Like, there's some really amazing competitions that happen every year amongst the trades where young people go and build a house or rewire a thing or run the plumbing or whatever, right? And that work could be leading to rebuilding the school, fixing the school that they go to school at, all kinds of different initiatives. There's so much work to do from an infrastructure perspective, and so much renewal that needs to happen to build the things that our great-grandparents or grandparents built. We need to get busy. Stop waiting for somebody else. The opportunity is ours. And I think we've got a great community to help do some of that work, to contribute in shaping the future.
Yeah, like if you take the that motto, it takes a village to raise a child.
Mm-hmm. It takes a child to remind the village how to create and behave. Right.
It's so true. Yeah.
Sometimes we all need to remember that we may still be the 8-year-olds or maybe even the 5-year-olds that we were a long time ago. But anyway, we've got a great group of people to help cultivate and grow and do better things. So
yeah, definitely. We've been having a great conversation here, Kris. We're putting a lot of things on the table. It's pretty great. Is there anything that you're looking forward to in the near future with CUSW? Do you have any future travel plans, any initiatives on the forefront for you?
The housing initiatives are really exciting and important, and not just because of what we're going to build housing wise and how that'll change people's lives, but the people that are going to be involved in the work, that we're going to take that model from Halalt and embed it so that we can train people on the job in the communities that we're building. Next year, we've got an election coming up, so some renewal within the organization. And over the last several months, I've seen a lot of new members or newer members, as well as older members, talking about how they want to participate. I think that's really, really exciting. A handing of the baton between generations, and at the same time, that continuance of the values and how our Constitution continues to be a living document that guides us, and the values that are on the front cover are part of who and what we are. And I look forward to seeing where this goes, and to really listening and hearing the wisdom, knowledge, ideas, challenges that our members are facing and our broader external stakeholders or broader community are involved in, and how CUSW is involved. And again, I appreciate you putting the spotlight on all of us as a collective community and what we're doing to create a better world for ourselves and for Canada.
Yeah, it's really fascinating for me to be the host. I'm kind of like a talking head here, where I just say a few things and I just let the guest talk about who they are. And at first, I kind of thought, okay, what am I going to say to get the conversation started? but it's much more easier than that. And it's not really about focusing on the union. It's much easier to focus on the person. Kind of like when you're talking about before, where you're not picking the company, you're picking the people. And it's the same thing with this podcast. I'm not actually picking the topic for the person to talk about. I'm picking the person to talk about them and what they do. And that's what CUSW is all about. Like individually, we create CUSW.
Yeah, we're stronger together. Well, you make it easy, Dan. So thank you. And again, great people doing great things, creating a great future for all of us. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, we really are creating great things. On a parting note, do you have anything that you'd like to share with the people at home, like something involving Kris Stevens?
Yeah, I'll say the foundation's important. I learned the hard way because I wasn't looking after myself. I was putting a lot out into the world probably about 11, 12 years ago. Learned the hard way that if I didn't look after my own health, that I couldn't look after anyone else. I couldn't do the work that I wanted to do. So for me, it became about martial arts, about eating better, and also about time and recognizing that, I could work more. I could maybe make a bit more money. But at the end of the day, my time, especially with the people that matter, is really important too. And you might want to go improve the world, but make sure you're carving at that time. If you don't, then you might lose the things that are most important. So, time, work with, and be with good people. Those are the two key things that I've maybe figured out over the last 10, 15 years. And I thank the union as a community and you and all the other people that I get to work with for being such amazing people. And I also thank everyone for the time that I get to contribute and participate, but also the time I get to have with my son and with the other people in my broader community and the opportunity to be an ambassador for CUSW.
Thanks for sharing that, Kris. It is totally true. You can't really build a community without fostering relationships. That's what I get from what you're saying. And I appreciate the relationship that you and I have built, especially since we worked together for a few years on and off, but never really connected up until a couple of years ago when I took part in the roundtable discussions that you're hosting. And since then, we've built a few things together, and it is really amazing. It's cool to be here. So on behalf of the CUSW membership, on behalf of myself and the CUSW Spotlight podcast, we truly appreciate you taking the time to be here today, Kris. And thank you very much for having a great conversation with me. Thanks very much, buddy.
Great. Thank you.
For those of you at home who are interested in contacting Kris or myself, please refer to the show description, and you can find all our contact information there. Maybe you have some show ideas. Maybe you want to be a guest on the show. We'd love to have you. Please contact us. We'll get in touch with you. And just a little bit of reminder, we have the CUSW Health and Safety Conference coming up October 3rd and 4th. So keep an eye out for that. And we all want to have you there. So please try to join. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for shining bright in the CUSW spotlight. Let's get inspired and shine a spotlight on the CUSW.